1340 WGRV. We're joined in studios this morning by Greene County Mayor David Crum. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Ron. Good morning, Greene County. It's good to be here again.
The Mayor's always good to come into the studios and talk with us after the county commission meetings, and we kind of get a bigger idea of what happens at those meetings, but also a look at what happens from 1 month to the next in between that. There's a lot that goes on during the meetings, and we try to summarize it into a couple of minutes here on the radio, but a 3-hour meeting boiled down to a couple of minutes. Sometimes we can't go into all those details, so hopefully we can do that today and enlighten the people a little bit more and let them know about how their county government is working. So we appreciate you coming, Mayor.
Thank you, and I appreciate you all taking the time and to allow us to run this on your all station and on your YouTube to help try to inform the public a little bit more, because there is a lot goes on in county government that's typically unseen. It's kind of like the iceberg. There's a little bit that you see, but a whole lot going on underneath that you don't.
Well, and by the time some items make it to the full commission, they've already been in a committee for a period of time, and a lot of times that's where the details come out and get worked out by the commissioners and then presented to the full commission. So we'll go over a lot of things like that today. Let's start off first with what probably took up the bulk of the first part of the meeting last night anyway, and that was the current situation and status of the Greene County Courthouse. There are places on there that don't look too good, that don't look too safe. There's, as Dave Wright, the architect, said last night, there have been a lot of Band-Aids put on it, but it's about time now for some major surgery.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. We've had some leaking issues for many years, and it seemed like every time that in the past that some money would come up to try to address that issue, something worse would be there, and it would be transferred to take care of that problem. And you're right, the Band-Aids aren't holding anymore, and it's time we're going to have to address those. As you said, fortunately, in that the roof itself is in good shape. It's pretty much everything around it. All the flashing, the guttering has some real problems, so water coming off of that roof is getting between the flashing. It's going between the walls and coming down into the interior, causing some interior damage. So it just really is time that it's got to be fixed. There's some bricks and things that are really starting to deteriorate. That's part of the problem. Until you get some of that removed, we're not going to see all the extent that's behind it. One of the good things as far as being able to try to finance this thing is over the years we've had a small capital projects fund that has built up now to about $165,000. We've used some things to buy in the past year out of that, smaller items. But with the wheel tax increase, we put $2 in of that increase into capital projects. So that's going to help fund, because we have a lot of facilities needs as our facilities are aging.
One thing that Dave Wright said last night is kind of the nature of the building, where it's situated. That's going to extend the duration of that project. It's something that is going to have to be done from a bucket, he said, a lift, and it'll be about a 5-month project at best.
Yeah, it's just looking at that, I mean, you've basically got a building sitting on a small plat that's got sidewalks and street behind it, so it's hard to get there without a lift of some sort. It's not open around it that gains easy access, so it's going to restrict the ability to do the work.
And as any homeowner will know, by the time you see water leaking on the inside, there could be a lot of damage between the inside and out. Dave showed pictures of paneling falling off walls. He mentioned buckets in courtrooms to catch water dripping, so it's obviously a serious thing that needs to be addressed pretty quick.
It does. We, and that's what we kind of hit on it last month. We did the visual for the visual learners this month, that we really showed some pictures to get an idea of the extent of that damage. And so it's we all now know from looking at it that it can't be put off any longer. So we'll start looking at that resolution to actually authorize some work and some things and put together a small committee. We've got some good people on the legislative body there that have some some knowledge that can help work with Dave on as we go through this project. As you say, a 5-month once it gets started, if things go well.
And then, fortunately, you're kind of hitting a good weather time anyway. I mean, as opposed to starting this in October or November when you might get behind the 8 ball on weather. If the commission moves forward with it, maybe you'll have the best weather coming up to take care of that.
Yeah, we are getting in that time, and as you talk about the weather, that's part of the problem. It's caused some of the damage. I mean, we get a lot of, as Dave said, the area where we live in the last few weeks, we've seen in particular, it freezes at night, and we thaw during the day, and it freezes back at night. So as that water that gets in those crevices and things on the building continues to freeze, expand, and thaw and leak and go through that process, it just does more and more damage.
Last night, the court passed a resolution that's going towards helping free up some money from the state of Tennessee to come back to Greene County and improve on some road projects.
Yes, the state's estimated that they've got $100 million revenue above expected, and there's a House and Senate bill this week that the schedule now that it will be acted on to return that to the counties, and Greene County's share would be just a little over $1.1 million that we would be able to utilize for some roads. So that would be really positive for us. We passed a resolution, and we'll get that sent down to our representatives and our senator within today or tomorrow. And I've actually sent an email to David Hawk asking him when that will appear on the floor.
Is that tied to any particular projects or part of projects? In other words, is it only for paving, or is it only for drainage, or can it just be used for whatever needs each individual county has?
It could be used for whatever needs that county has. And talking to David, we really look to use that for paving.
The county commissioners last night, one of the options on the table, a resolution would have required 3 commissioners to sponsor any resolution. That ultimately failed by a vote of 6 in favor and 13 against. What was the origin of that? How did that resolution come up?
There's been conversations for months now that resolutions should require more than one person. And the past history, and you kind of say most resolutions kind of get worked out in advance. You've got budget committees, insurance, highway, various committees that hear and discuss something openly in open meetings, and so they have an idea whenever it comes. But a lot of resolutions, just one commissioner may be approached or may hear something that they want to take action on, and they can bring that resolution by themselves. Conversation has been in the past, should it take more than one person to do that? And even at one point in time, there was a resolution came up as defeated. Everything almost should have to come through a committee. And I think there's a concern there that you could stifle an individual being able to bring a resolution to, if it took more than one person, that it may really affect a group of people that felt like that this action need to be taken, but you may not be able to get enough commissioners to sign on. Yeah. And the other issue is the open meetings, possible violation of the sunshine. And if I have a resolution and I called you, Ron, if you were on the legislative and said, Ron, will you support me in this resolution and, ABC, and that's the extent of it, and you say, oh, I've heard of ABC, I want to sign on to support that, yes, then we've not really violated. But if it goes into a question and answer and detailed discussion, then we've probably crossed that line of the sunshine laws. So I think that's why it didn't want to stifle that, but also the concern that there may be conversations held in private amongst commissioners that don't need to be.
It seemed like, and I'll say this from the observer's standpoint, and you don't have to comment on it one way or the other. It seemed like the comments that were in favor of something like that were centered around, there have been recent issues that have come before the court that have been I won't say a pet project, but the idea of an individual or a very small group that really we're going to have no chance of passing the entire court. I think the word embarrassment and black eye got tossed around 2 or 3 times last night, and it was alluded to, although nobody said specifically anything about the Confederate flag issue. I have to think that was one of the ones, if not the one, that was the impetus for something like this. That was a 1-20 vote. But I think, Mayor, and I think the court agreed, there's a fine balance there between stifling, as you said, any individual's right to speak at that meeting. They're all commissioners. They were all elected as representatives, and whether or not you agree with somebody's particular politics or their ideas, they are almost constitutionally guaranteed the right to talk about it or to present it or produce it that way.
Yeah, I think you summarized that really well. It may be something that if I were a commissioner that I would be so set against that the idea of it would just embarrass or enrage me. But we as a community and we as a country really protect that First Amendment right for people to be able to bring those things forward and to not stifle that and let it be spoken about, even if we really don't like it.
I won't say it as eloquently as Commissioner Tucker did last night, but it's the idea behind a democracy is that the majority does rule, but you're also respectful of the minority. Mm-hmm. Just because they're in the minority, that's not any means to be dismissive of them or anything else. But is that something you think the commission will revisit, or do you think that's the end of that discussion? Or
I think for this group, it's probably the end of it, and I think, and you kind of paraphrased, and Commissioner Tucker did say, democracy isn't always streamlined, because, sometimes it is cumbersome, but it takes time, and for us to speak and take up time at those commission meetings is something that I may just not care about, that I really don't want to spend my time, but
there are also procedures in place, as Del Tucker would know as a parliamentarian, to move meetings along, and the chairman can do that or set whatever limits if that ever becomes that large of an issue. I think the 3 commissioner sponsorship probably would be a little ambitious on or maybe a little far reaching. Having 2, I think, as they did one time, seemed a little bit better.
And you mentioned I'm probably very loose with the parliamentary part because I feel like the commissioners should have that opportunity to speak at the commission meeting and on things that they have an interest in.
They do, but I think you would agree, and I think you do a good job. Also, the job of the chairman is to keep the meeting going and to make it a progressive type of meeting. It's not just sitting there spinning the wheels, and I think you do a good job with that with any time. One thing that the commission did turn down last night by a vote of 3-16, they kicked back to the Budget and Finance Committee a proposal that I think ultimately will come through in one form or the other. Commissioner Brad Peters wasn't taking issue with the ultimate outcome, maybe just some of the details. Bond refinance for some school bonds that date back to 2001 that could save a couple $100,000 over a 10-year period.
Couple $100,000 a year.
Oh, a year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's even better. That's even more better.
Yeah. That's one of those things, the reason you redo bonds is not as the old, and you can't do it anymore, kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
It's actually a savings in this, and maybe we didn't explain it as well when we started because I got a call. This savings would go into the education debt service, so it would actually help the county schools in their education debt service, build it up, possibly help them if they need to buy an additional bus or some things like that. So I think overall this is a really good. Bonds are complicated. I'm not a financial expert, and I'm not sure it was all explained well, but I think it will come back and be acted on again in one way or another, as you say. But I think we'll do this refinancing because still interest rates are at that low point that now this makes sense to do at this point in time.
I think that's what Commissioner Waddle said last night. The concern always would be, you can go out and refinance if of a homeowner, you can refinance your loan anytime you want, but if you refinance it every time for 30 years. And then you pay for 10 years and you refinance for another 30 years. You're not really realizing any savings. You're prolonging how long you have to pay on these debts. That is not the case in this particular one. This is as I think John Waddle said, this is probably as clear cut as any bond refinance he's seen come up. It's merely going to take advantage of some much better interest rates.
It is. This is something we need to do, and it will help out the school's debt service.
The commission last night had to do a very somber act, and that is vacate a seat. Commissioner Ted Hensley, that passed away, I thought it was very appropriate last night. Commissioner Eddie Jennings' wife made up a wreath that was placed at Commissioner Hensley's empty seat. Ted, very loquacious, very well spoken, I think a very dedicated and a very passionate representative of not just the people in his district, but everybody in Greene County. And you know, his ambitions were a couple of times to even take that to the state level.
It was. It is with great sympathy and condolences to his family. We hate it kind of had to be done so quick after, and that question came up. But, you know, at his death, that seat kind of became vacant. An action needed to be taken. And sometimes, whether it's in government or life, we have to go on with doing business, even though it may be at a difficult time. And we certainly don't want to minimize the mourning of that family by the action that we had to take last night. So the action was taken to vacate that seat in the 2nd District. We will feel it's similar to what we have in the past. Individuals that live in that district that wish to be considered have until noon on March the 11th to bring something by my office that indicates their name, address, their willingness or intent to be nominated. I've had resumes. I've had sheets of paper in the past that just had the person's name and address on it. But that way we can document we've received it, and by being in that amount of time, it will allow the election commission to go forth and kind of certify and make sure they do meet the qualifications for that. But if someone doesn't get by in that amount of time, they will be able to come to the March commission meeting and get a commissioner to nominate them from the floor. What I do, though, is that sheet of paper that kind of gives a little biographical data on the person, I'll make a copy and put it in the commission package so they have a little more information about that person before it comes time for them to make that selection.
So a commissioner will be appointed at the March meeting to fill that?
Yes.
All right. What business will the county be in between now and March? I know you don't know surely what the agenda will hold for that next meeting, but what are some of the concerns or direction that the county is going to be working on in the next 30 days?
Well, the one will be, we'll revisit and bring that bond issue back. We always have a lot of minor type business to where we're having to, like, maybe sale of equipment, different things that goes back into a budget. We sell surplus cars and things on a website called GovDeals. Mm-hmm. And so if the sheriff sells 2 or 3 cars or David Weems sells something through an auction, then we have to take action through a resolution, and it's kind of a housekeeping process to move that money from the sale of those items back into that budget. So we always have, sometimes whenever we have, like this agenda went A through J, but you may have 2 or 3 things that really stick out, kind of like on this one. We had the bond that ended up going back for additional, a home grant, which is a low-income housing rehabilitation. We placed that grant last year. We lost it to Hancock County, but we'll make that application again. The very last item was some rezoning on some property. And so
you mentioned some money going back into the highway department. I'd say that will be something that Road Superintendent David Weems will welcome. We've had, and this kind of ties in with the deal at the courthouse. Dave Wright said we've seen a lot of weather in the last few weeks that really have aggravated issues. I know that David Weems and his guys down at the highway department have done a great job of pre-treating the roads, getting the roads cleared when they need to, and he's had favorable conditions to do it, too. And they've really done a fantastic job. But I would imagine that their budget on salt, I know the city yesterday or Tuesday at their meeting approved the purchase of an additional, I think, 100 tons of salt. It's got to be stretching the county's budget thin in the salt department, too.
Well, David has expended all of his salt money, and I can transfer certain funds at his request. That if he has money in his budget from one line item to another for salt, and off the top of my head, I don't remember, but I know he's transferred one and had a short conversation that about one more snow round, and he's out of salt again.
Yeah.
And so he knew going into this year that his salt budget would not make it through the year if we had any snow at all.
Well, and that's something completely beyond his control. But the larger point being, I think all the county agencies have done a fantastic job doing what should be done during, about 3 weeks of pretty rough weather. The roads have been great. The sheriff's department's been out assisting where they needed to be. You've had the sidewalks and things cleared, and when you're open, I think everybody's really pitched in, done a great job in some probably most difficult 3 week stretch of winter we've had.
Well, with kind of on the lighter side, I get those little weather alerts and news alerts from your station by text, and we kind of laughed that I had sent one back that I think you do a great job of informing the community on breaking news, but I'm really tired of getting these snow alerts.
Those four-letter words.
Yeah.
We'll send out hopefully we'll be able to send one out later this week calling for sunshine and 60 degrees. Mm-hmm. Mayor, if people, they are interested in following the county, I don't have a lot of patience for people that want to stand around and complain about it without getting involved in it. They can come to these meetings. All meetings that the county government does is open. You're talking about the different budget committees, finance committees, the insurance, solid waste, anybody. These meetings are open and people are welcome to come, and in some cases they're welcome to address the court.
They are. We send those notices out. They're on your website. We send those out. We put our agenda and things on there, and we do have a public hearing section that individuals can call my office if they call at least 10 days ahead of time so that it's on the agenda. We'll actually put their name on the public hearing part, or if not, they can come and ask their commissioner, and I say there because any commissioner can call on them, and get up, and we allow that person 3 minutes to speak. If they expend that 3 minutes, we can extend that by another 3 minutes. So in essence, they could have 6 minutes to speak, but we like to keep it to the 3 minutes so that we are, as you said earlier, moving the process along. Typically, the meetings do take a while. So. Well,
it's an interesting thing to see the people that come and what they talk about. You had Joel Hauser last night. And they're great ideas, and certainly the public has the right to share those with the full court. Joel last night talking about recycling and the need to do that, and it's good to hear from the public and keep them engaged in the process.
It is. Our meetings are, sometimes we have a good crowd if it's something that gathers a lot of attention or interest from the public, sometimes very small, but our meetings are open, and we try to be, and I think that's kind of like that one resolution that failed. It was, we want to be open and accessible and allow people to have input, and that's one good reason for having 21 commissioners. You ought to be able to find one to talk to if you have a concern.
Well, and I don't remember who said it last night, but everything doesn't always have to be a 21-0 vote. It's fine to have a healthy discussion on either side, and that one resolution getting kicked back to committee and failing, that's a fine thing to do. That's what government should do. So. Mayor, is anything else we need to cover that you can think of you got coming up on the schedule or want people to know about?
Just a whole lot of busy. I do really appreciate the opportunity to serve Greene County. I've learned a lot in my tenure here so far. Really try to do my best every day, and I appreciate the prayers and the encouragement that I do get from a lot of people out there.
We appreciate you always coming by, and we'll talk to you again in March.
Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Greene County Mayor David Crum here on AM 1340 WGRV.